I recently had the privilege of interviewing our 102-year-old veteran, Peter Lemon, and at this time of remembrance, I would like to share this with you. In my time as Mayor, I've had the benefit of meeting many wonderful residents with some really good stories and experiences about their life. One of my objectives as Mayor is to share these experiences and stories. As the Armed Forces Champion for the London Borough of Bromley, I thought where better to start with this process of sharing experiences than with an RAF veteran who, 102 years old, is still going strong today. Peter, earlier on this year we saw you at Biggin Hill Airport in the chapel, and you gave a very stirring story about your exploits during the war.
Yeah.
So much so that when we left, my driver, coincidentally called Peter, and I were actually blown away with what you said.
Really?
And we felt that we just had to come down and capture what you told us on film.
Wow.
Could I ask you to give us your story about the war and your memories of the war?
I joined number 8 squadron. I'm flying bombers. It was a heavy bomber at the time, but when the 4-engine stuff came into being, it became a light bomber, or even a medium bomber, and it was called a Wellington. We arrived at Aden, having ferried this aircraft out via French Africa, all across the Indian Ocean, the Mediterranean, and then down to Sudan and over the hills of Ethiopia to Aden. Well, there we were, 8 of us. And at the beginning of incidentally, we arrived in New Year's Eve 1943. And the pilots had to do some local flying just to see the hillsides and around small mountains in the Aden area, but they still could be in the way for an aircraft. And so we did some local flying, and then the night came when they had to take off and land at night. Now, these night flights were usually carried out by 2 pilots in our case, and they always carried a wireless operator. So there were the 2 pilots and me. We took off and we did 2 successful takeoffs and landings. Now, the runway at Aden wasn't a runway at all. It was just a sandy strip, and there was no electric light for the flare path, and the flare path, so-called, was lit by or illuminated by gooseneck flares. So there were about 5 or 6 or 7 of these things, and they had to be lit by matches, I suppose, or other, and anybody had to go down the runway and carry about 5 or 6 of these each side of the runway. Well, we carried it out 2 flights successfully, and I don't know whether the pilots changed over responsibility or not, I don't know. I was sitting in the fuselage somewhere. We were flying back to take off, and we rode over one of these flares. Well, I haven't told you yet that the Wellington was a very strong aircraft, and the fuselage indeed was very strong. All this aircraft, wings, fuselage, tailplane, the lot, was covered in fabric. And we took off for this 3rd flight, and the skipper rode over one of these things, and it burst, but flamed the aircraft from nose to tail, in being canvas nose to tail. Well, the pilots got out very quickly through the escape hatch, which was just under their seats. And mind you, they didn't wait like the captain of a ship, they were off. And I was left there in the aircraft by myself. Well, I scrambled over the main spar, which is a kind of a girder that goes through the fuselage out onto the wings to give the wings strength. And I started to move forward to get out of the aircraft, and by this time the aircraft was really alight, being canvas all over, plus the wings. And I got behind the second pilot seat thinking I could get out that way, and there I was trapped and I didn't know any way out. I just looked around and looked around and looked around. I'm telling you a long time, it takes a long time to say this, but it says minutes, seconds. And I thought, where the devil can I get out? And I just do, no, I never could get out. And I looked back and the flames were coming up through the bomb bay. And although I didn't think we had bombs on board, we did have an overload tank in the belly. And that must have been getting pretty hot. So I pulled myself together, as my mother would say, and I've got to get out. And it suddenly came to me, it's the 20th of January. It's my mother's birthday tomorrow. Oh, she's going to get a telegram saying I've been killed. Next thing I knew, I was out of that aircraft. And to this day, I do not know how I got out. And when I got in the lights, I looked at my hands and thought to myself, well, there's no cuts, no burns, no bruises, nothing. Nothing. Lucky little devil. That's my exact words, I thought to myself. After an accident, there's always an inquiry as to why it happened and how it happened. And the crew are grounded. So we couldn't do perform a convoy escort for the next 2 or 3 nights. So we missed the one we should have done about 3 nights' time, and another crew took the aircraft that we would have taken, and sad to say, it blew up in midair and killed all 6 crew. And I thought to myself, God, that's twice in a week. I could have died. And I said, the angels are with me. And that's the only thing I could think of, the angels. And when I hear ABBA sing their song, whatever it's called, and it comes to a verse, I believe in angels. And I say to myself, the angels were with me that night, on the 20th of January, 1941 or something like that.
That's absolutely amazing. Really brilliant. You say you have a second story as well?
Yeah,
you'd like to tell us?
shorter than
No,
that.
please, go ahead.
We were sent out one night to look for a U-boat which had been damaged, but they knew it was in the area. Now, we got to bed late, well, about 9 or 10 or whatever it was, and this is not in Aden, but in Salalah in the Oman, where I used to do most of our flying. And this night, we just more or less got to bed, and then we pulled out and said, come on, you've got to go fly. And this is 12 o'clock, midnight. I looked for this and down to get rid of it, this U-boat. So we thought, oh, all right. So we got ready and we took off just after 1 o'clock, bleary-eyed and God knows what. And bearing in mind in those days, the only radar there was our 9-inch screen, thereabouts, black and white. We were told not to sit behind it or in front of it any more than 2 hours at a time because it's bad for the eyes. So this is why the 3 wireless ops swapped around every 2 hours between radar, radio and guns. And the guns were either at the turret, at the back, or engines and nothing. And you're just lost. All you've got is this little screen and well, hope for the best. So we flew for, I don't know how long, I would say 2 or 3 hours out that way, and we knew nothing. So Skipper took his mind, I was supposed to fly some other way. So I think he must have gone east. And he thought to himself, well, that takes us to India, and we know we'll never get there. So we turned around and flew to the other way. And we, sure enough, came across the coast, which was, in those days, Italian Somaliland. It's now Somalia. And we flew up the coast, nothing, just beaches. So we turned around and flew the other way. And then, sure enough, we came across this U-boat, staggered on the rocks, as were the crew that had survived. And the crew took some pot shots at us. Whether or not they hit us, I don't know, but if they did, any bullet would have gone straight through the canvas in one side and out the other. But the bullets didn't do any damage to any important equipment. So anyway, we didn't shoot or anything like that. We just took photographs, showed this mob of Germans. And I thought to myself at the time, we could have killed a lot of them. We got the guns in the front and 2 in the back, or vice versa, I forget what it was. But we didn't, we were good boys. We just circled around. And then we heard the Navy was on the way. I think it was HMS Chatham. And we didn't wait for them to arrive. We just went off as distracted and went back to Aden. Now, it turns out that after the war, we heard, and it's written about, I've written the book, or paragraph in the book, about this crew in the German U-boat had sunk a Greek ship in the Mediterranean, and had machine gunned the survivors, obviously some of which survived, because otherwise we wouldn't have known the story. Anyway, it turned story.
Wow. Well, can I just confirm for perhaps some of our younger viewers that U-boat is a submarine?
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Yeah.
No, that's an incredible story. I notice you have a logbook here. Did you have to keep a logbook of absolutely every flight? And,
Yeah.
And what, every role you did within the flight? You say navigating?
That kind of actually, it's different from a wireless book, pilot's book.
Oh, right.
But you'd look through the glass through it.
So you've got volumes of these, have you?
Huh?
You have volumes of these now, or
No,
you
I've
just
only got
kept
that one.
Yeah. That's absolutely amazing. And so how many times did you actually fly during the war? Was it every day, or was it...
Open it. I'll show you a page. Every op, as it's called, which was a mission or whatever you like to call it these days, we call it an op. Now all the beginning is the training. Then you get to the better bits, and it's. I was get somebody said to me this morning, you want to get it rebound. Every op is underlined red. Give a more important page. Oh, here.
Wow. Busy. So it's every other day, virtually every day sometimes.
Yeah.
And the rest of the time you were just on reserve in case you were needed?
Yeah, well, yeah, we're always on. Yeah, but we did spend a fortnight up in, I think it was Asmara. We were flown to Asmara, Eritrea. I don't know what it's called now, but that was 2 weeks we didn't fly, and I had dysentery for a month, so I didn't fly that month.
So you must have built up some very good bonds with your colleagues.
Absolutely, yeah.
Did you fly with the same crew all the time? So Canadian pilots, it was a multinational crew.
Well, we but with the second pilot, then we lost that second pilot. When I say lost him, he went off to do a captain's view, captain's
Promotion?
thanks, and we then had a Scottish second pilot. The skipper told me after the war that the second chap he met when the captain who was in somewhere in the Middle East as a trainer, and this second pilot, the Scotsman, said you nearly killed him. So it was a bit of a, because first time he flew, the skipper said, "Hey, this is not a bomb down, it's a dive bomber." He apparently stuck the nose down too quickly or too sharply. But same crew all the time.
Have you any idea how many sorties you did during the war?
It's written all up in there.
Oh, they're all in here, are they?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, I'm not going to count them, but a lot.
I did 50.
50? Oh,
Yeah.
And-
Bomber Command would 35 for what they called I forget what they did call them. And he's looking at his watch. And 35. And then if they didn't wanted to do another one, if they wanted to do, they did another 20, but I did 50. That was 42 on the squadron and another 8 Mediterranean, Atlantic. And
over what period of time? How many years? From the very beginning of the war to the end, or?
Well, I was only on the squadron about 18 months. All the time. It took me 3 years to change.
Wow.
Yeah, I joined in 1940, and I was on what they called deferred service, and they called me up in April, 12th of April, 41. And I was demobbed on the 12th of April, 46.
All right. Did you get your suit?
Yeah, but yes, I did 44 years exactly.
What sort of altitude did you fly at then?
1,000 feet.
So it's quite low.
It is low.
Yeah.
We were instructed to fly at 50 feet at one time, and the skipper said, no, I'm not going to do it.
No, I don't blame you. Was that to get underneath the radar, or was it just...
I've no idea, just an instruction. You don't ask questions.
Yeah.
No, I mean, we used to carry parachutes.
Yeah.
But even from 1,000 feet, we couldn't use them.
No, I was just to say, they're worthless, aren't they? Worthless.
That would be worthless. One of the wireless ups pulled the ripcord in the fuselage, and it
What is your fondest memory of these days? Obviously, it wasn't a pleasant time, but you must have some fond memories.
Salada in Oman. The runway, so-called, was almost on the beach. We could walk to the beach, but the trouble there was very large sand crabs, and of course there were stingrays in the water. Stingray being a flat fish whose tail comes up and stings you, and there's I've forgotten the name of these things. Go to sleep in your slippers and you put your fingers in and they burn you.
The spiders.
No, Pixar's do, but some other thing I forgot. It's one of these things you forget. And a snake. I still don't know what I call creepy crawly things. No, but Salada I enjoyed. The so-called showers were 4-gallon fuel tanks with holes punched in them, and the water was filled in, and then all operated by some other airman, and who pulls the string when out. And that was our shower. But the Sultan was charging us all every penny we spent.
Wow.
On the water. Yeah. So it's told. And another chap there, it was forbidden. He grew a beard. Forbidden in the Air Force. Ginger beard it was. Long, but he had it chopped out, to have it chopped off. He didn't get a charge anyway, he just got ticked off. But because as aircrew, we were anywhere you go. You see films of Big and Hill and so forth where the pilots were lounging about, but that's all they did, lounging about. They got no discipline at all, doing nothing, and they mess about. But in the air, they're absolutely pot on.
Very disciplined.
Yeah.
Very disciplined.
But anyway, I was going to give you another little story. We took off from Wales, and I don't know whether you know it. I only know about this, and I think I'm right in saying that an altimeter in the old days was set at the barometric pressure of the aerodrome you took off from. So we took off from wherever it was in South Wales, and then we were recalled. And we were recalled because the weather was absolutely terrible the way we had taken off from. And the barometric pressure of that aerodrome then had dropped perhaps from 1,000 millimetres to 950 perhaps. Now, what should happen is the pilot should alter his old altimeter to the new barometric pressure. Otherwise he's flying at a height that he never was. And because he didn't know change it, I didn't say a word to him. I could have asked him a question. And we came out, we did it, this is over St Bride's Bay, South West Wales. And we were coming in, the weather was shifting, there was low cloud, mist and rotten. And we came in and we were below the cliffs. And anyway, we got over the cliffs, we frightened a few cows, but we did 2 or 3 circuits, and he just could not get in. And I said, I was going to ask him, I should have done it for my sense. I might have got a GM medal for it. I said, shall I get the barometric pressure from the base? But I didn't ask him, I should have done that because his meter was still reading at the old money meter. And that's why he was flying at the different height, he thought he was. And this is why I think so many aircraft fly into the ground, they don't keep up to date. Perhaps it's normally done, I don't know. But anyway, we got in, it was circled 2 or 3 times, couldn't get in. And anyway, he took a chance, and we landed halfway down the runway. What I called side slipped, because there's the runway, and we're over here. So got on the runway, and because it was not long enough, so we went off the end. And amongst the bushes and the trees and things. And I said, well, what happened to brakes? What brakes? I remember him saying that now. What brakes? I can't imagine blokes at 22 doing this now. I really can't.
No.
Yeah. Oh man, incidentally, that same aircraft had to be tested, I suppose, before we flew to Aden. But it took us all the way to Aden without any more trees in the way.
You said you had a question to ask me. What is that?
I think I was going to ask you, have you got time for another question? I've just...
No, we haven't.
Sorry I'm saying this, but you can't believe all you read in the newspaper.
Oh, no.
In this book, among my logbook, in the logbook here, it says, I flew to not Hong Kong. Now, the aircraft wouldn't have reached...
And you didn't have mid-air refuelling then, did you?
No. Well, I did go to Hong Kong, but it was in a civil airline after the war. But things like that, and I said I'm 102 somewhere, and little things, I thought, well, if people are reading this, especially the squadron people, because it's still in me on the squadron line, how can I say, he was talking nonsense. No, I mean, we were flying across, I didn't know this until after the war, when I was on the phone to the skipper, he was in Canada, and do you know we nearly came down to the Bay of Biscay? I said, no. And the second pilot was at the controls apparently, and the automatic flying pilot broke down for some reason, and the aircraft lost the automatic part of it, and it became manual. But it didn't become manual until you switched the switch off, whichever he was looking for, and we lost height from 8,000 feet to 500.
Wow.
Yeah, wow. And I'm a poor swimmer. Why I was in Coastal Command, I don't know.
You went to the museum recently. Yeah. What did that bring back memories of the aircraft?
Well, it was nice to see the aircraft as it was. You can see the aircraft, you can see the skeleton of what Barnes Wallis did. I mean, he did the bouncing bomb.
Yeah.
And a lot of other things that are on view in the museum, which I didn't know he did. Blockbuster bombs or whatever they were called. What was enormous things. So when you see them on the ground, you think, well, how the hell did the aircraft get off?
Yeah, a lot smaller than the aircraft today, aren't they? So, yeah, it's a good question.
Well, yes, of course, there are no 4-engine stuff now.
So how many different types of aircraft did you fly then?
There's a Proctor Percival, Oxfords, Ansons.
Wellingtons, you say?
Oh yeah, then Wellington, then went on to Wellingtons, and I flew nothing but Wellingtons. When I say I flew, I didn't fly them.
Yeah, I appreciate that. You were there. No, it really has been a great pleasure and a great honour, and I really appreciate that. It's just mind-blowing.
Well, it's been very light-hearted anyway.
It's got to be. It's we're talking about a very, very serious subject. It's the last chunk of your life.
Yeah.
You could have lost your life during that chunk. But it's we wouldn't be here today without people like you and yourself. And, I think we should all be eternally grateful. And that's why I want to capture this